Hey everyone, I thought I'd hop online real quick in between some meetings and had some extra time finally. I've been busy just working on things, trying to get videos out, and yeah, been doing a lot. So wanted to check in with you guys 'cause I haven't seen you guys in quite a while. And yeah, I've been enjoying the fish room. If you watched it, I put out the video about the 10-gallon tanks yesterday. My water change system is turned on. That'll happen from time to time. Noon, 40 gallons changing. So, uh, yeah. I'm not seeing any viewers yet. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're good. We're good. So, what have we been working on? Deep in the Mullen podcast has been coming out. Outside of that, been planning kind of travel and getting some products done. Done as in they're being produced and we've got samples coming. We've got some products that are already like on the way as in done. So those will be coming out in the next month or two, which is good. So business kind of moving forward, but I've been really kind of reconnecting with the hobby. And we usually, when I'm reconnecting with the hobby, I don't film it because that's work. So I've got this like work on one side, hobby on the other side. And yeah, so I've been buying fish. I got some paradise fish yesterday, some of the blue reds, I think they're calling them, and some Blihari rainbows. So over my shoulder here, I guess this shoulder right here on top of my finger, those are actually Corridora eggs, and same with those right there. I realize they're out of focus for you guys, but Corridora's been laying eggs for me every 3 to 5 days, and I've just been feeding pretty heavy. To the point where I'll put like community pellets in and they'll be floating around for 3 or 4 hours, but that allows them to kind of sink down and the laser corridors to really chow down. And so I've been doing that about every 3 or 4 days, and that's kind of I get the eggs the next day. So my trick, if you can call it a trick, has always been over the last 10 years put a stupid amount of food in with the corridors once they're old enough to breed, and then wait, and you get eggs, and so that continues to keep happening. And so, yeah, making lots of fry, having fun with that. So, getting ready for the storm in Vermont. Minus 35. Wait, yeah, minus 35 to 50 below. That's crazy. I mean, I've been seeing the like ice storms coming. We know we've kind of oh, my thing is like beeping at me invalid during live stream. So we'll see if this camera holds up here, but it looks to be. All right, I've got to hit the OK button. That's going to drive me nuts. Is this working? Okay. Hopefully that'll just yeah, I've been kind of seeing the storm is coming and it's coming to our warehouse and everything too, but on this side, it is still doing that. It's going to drive me nuts. Um on this side of the country, just been super cold. Got down to 24 last night, which 24 probably sounds warm in comparison to uh, negative 25 to negative 50. So, yeah, I, the only tips that I do, and I don't deal with that kind of cold, is kind of keep the warm much hotter, keep the house much warmer or hotter than I normally would. So when we have big windstorms, I'll basically crank the heat to like 80 in both buildings and just go like, let's get hot, 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 hot. And that gives you more time to kind of come down to the, unsafe temperatures, which people ask that. In my experience, it's below about 60 in a fish room, so the more rundown time you can give yourself, the better there. Yeah, and then having a little bit of air is good. It can be kind of a double-edged sword in that if you're putting a lot of air through the tanks, it'll actually cool them down a little bit. But with no air, that's actually usually adding some stress also. And so if you have, if you can time it, if you have warm air going on because you plugged in a heater from a generator or something, and you can turn the air on, that's better than just doing them independently on other times. But it I would choose air over no air. So just know that. Do we know if ram's horns eat Corridora eggs? I think when you have a ton, they do. I've got ram's horns that are fairly big in there, but there's only like 10. And so I don't see them. I'm making over probably 100 Corey. Well, I don't know, making over 100, like probably making over 40 or 50 every weekish of eggs. So maybe they're eating some, and I would have been getting 100, but 40 or so every week is more than I'm putting effort into. So there's days I just don't even collect the eggs, like and then I've been doing some experiments with the eggs and things like that because I've still got a 10-gallon tank kind of bursting at the seams with fry. So yeah, got some water in my brute trash can, battery air pump, and all the tanks, and I'm ready. Yeah, that's not a horrible idea. I mean, the water would be cold over time, but you could do a water change if ammonia happened to spike, which shouldn't. But yeah. Tips for breeding Corridoras. I haven't done it myself. I've got Corridoras. I haven't like pulled them out to account, see if I'm making more. The catfish forums way back in the day when I was doing research, and I was gonna make my millions off of pygmy Corridoras. Colony spawn them, have like bio rings as homes, like get the right, like a little bit of size bigger bio rings so they can go inside. And it's also a great place for little crustaceans and other things for the fry. So there was a guy that was making quite a bit of, wow, my camera is geeking out hard. I kind of hope it does that on camera here, because then I'll just have to switch. But like my thing is losing it. Like I'm flip-flopping back and forth. But there was a guy that produced a lot of Habrosus and Pygmaeus that way, because they both were colony breeding. And so that's the attempt I would take, with lots of feeding and good water quality and all the things that go with that. So pound with brine shrimp and make sure there's lots of moss. Yeah, I mean, that's for most fish, that is kind of the key of like feed them really well, give them good water quality, give them lots of cover. Then there's like, oh, and then maybe you have to take eggs away, whether it's an egg scatterer like a tetra, whether it's a German blue ram or angelfish, whether it's Corridoras laying on the glass. Like those are kind of, for the most part, 3 universal steps. And you could always say like, but my fish raises them and I don't have that problem. Yes. But if you were to say, hey, you need to spawn these 25 different species of fish, applying those parameters to each one, you are more likely to get success than finding, oh, I found Congo tetras that'll raise their fry. Like, it's not that it can't be done. You might have a 150-gallon tank. You're like, yeah, I make 2 every 6 months. Like, that is technically breeding them and working and all that. There's another, like, okay, but let's say you made 600 in 6 months or 6,000 in 6 months. That's going to take separating out the eggs and things like that. Yeah. Pygmy Corys, I got 40 eggs over 3 days and just had 1 hatch this morning. Nice. I feel like that I would be super stoked on that for like the first 2 or 3 spawns. And I find that with a lot of things of like, I'm really into it. Like, that's so cool. I got to experience that. And it's like a roller coaster or something to me. Like, yeah, let's do it again. And then like by the second or third time, you're like, yeah, I've done that. I can move on now. And so that's why I like live bears, where it's like I can kind of move on and yet it's still doing its thing. How many teaspoons of brine shrimp eggs per liter based on the standard salt mix? Are you talking about like our brine shrimp salt? There's people that do upwards of 2 tablespoons in 2 liters. What I've found over the years is the more you push that line, the more oopsies you have. And so that might be like, 1 out of 20 batches, like, ooh, that one didn't come out. That was like a real soft hatch out of that one. Where if you were to go like a teaspoon, which is still a lot of eggs, a teaspoon per 2 liters, you might go 1 out of 100 might have a problem. Like, I only put 1 scoop of salt in there, or, it did get a little bit cold, or whatever it is. And so the more you push that, if you were looking to hatch a lot of brine shrimp, I would say getting multiple containers going, it pays for itself over time. You can harvest at different times, like Dean, and I've had upwards of 3 going, but it's not a terrible idea to like start one in the morning and then start one at the afternoon or night, and then the next morning you harvest, or the next 36 hours. So if you want to maximize your brine shrimp, usually go 36ish hours. And so you would like start one in the morning, start one at night, and then you would harvest again, or not again, but for the first time the following night. You'd harvest, you'd feed your fish, and you'd set one up, and then you'd harvest in the morning. And to truly get that going at 36 hours, to like maximize. So it might be that at at 24 hours maybe you're getting 60-70%. At 36 hours you're getting 90-95%, and then 48 maybe you're getting 99%, right? And so if you're truly trying to maximize the amount of eggs you could hatch out, 3 containers basically kind of gets you there. And because you can basically do one every morning and night, and once you get that set up, it'll go. That being said, it's real appealing to just like, I just do 1 container and harvest it every day and a half or so. It's great for the fish. It really depends on, do you have a whole fish room that needs lots of brine shrimp, or are you feeding brine shrimp to get things to breed and kind of, I get a batch of fry that needs it once a week or so. And that's, people usually get this like it's all or nothing thing, and I find the best is kind of, well, some of the time, there will be times when you need lots of brine shrimp. You go, oh man, I got 10 spawns of angels, I've got 10,000 of these things, I need lots all the time for like a week or two. And then the average fish room though is like, if I was to have brine shrimp twice a week, that would be just great. Actually, that would handles most people's fish rooms. You'd get lots of fry. And obviously if you just had a brand new batch of fry hatch out and you don't have any magic small fish feeder, you don't have other things, sure, hatch every day to get over that hump. But most fish transition off of brine, or don't even have to start on brine, like Corridoras and things like that don't even have to. It's just like a bonus or an addition to. I'm new to the hobby and wasn't quick enough identifying ick. A raise attempt to 87, add an airstone, and ick-x, losing fish every day. So me personally, I would turn the temperature back down to like 78. I realize the entire internet would say, but no, you can kill ick with just heat. And that's technically true. You can also kill fish with just heat. And so I typically, I do like using ick-x. We use it a lot as in the store and in here when I need it. And for the last 20 years, basically, it's whatever the temperature was when you notice it got ick, then I put in ick-x and I treat it for 5 fish days, and it works. When people try to make it harder by cranking that temperature up and putting extra stress on fish, trying other meds, doing other things, it stacks a bunch of stress on it, and it's really hard to get a fish healthy that is stressed out. So at this point, I wouldn't like do a big water change to bring the water temperature down. I would just go to the heater and be like, we're going to turn you back down to 78. And part of it is you start running metabolisms on overdrive. You can get it so hot you're killing beneficial bacteria. You can run into oxygen problems. There's all these little things that could be happening, and it's a domino effect of like, once something happens, like, oh, I'm starting to lose some of my bacteria. Well, that bacteria that dies makes ammonia. And now you have less bacteria to process that ammonia than you did before, right? Or maybe you used a different med before you realized it was ick, or you put some salt in, or you did something. And, maybe, so for instance, if we took this tank behind me as an example, if I turn that temperature to 87, half of those plants are just going to die. So the plants are going to go from right now consuming waste to dying and making waste. And that, like, you have this, like, your aquarium is balanced. Your fish get ick, right? And then all of a sudden, you upset that balance really hard. And you're going to get ammonia going and not have the filtration and the plants and the things working in your favor, because they're also getting a hit from that high temp. So that's why I personally don't use high temperatures to beat ick. I also believe that if that worked all the time, that's all we would do as a hobby. All farms would keep it hot, all wholesalers would keep it hot. My entire fish store would just be 87. We'd never worry about it. But we know there's drawbacks to that, and people will say like, yeah, but it's just temporary. Like, sure. I try to have as few moving parts as possible so I can focus on the thing that's broken in front of me. And so if I'm, just need to focus on the ick, that's way better than going, oh, my cycle's kind of crashing right now. My plants are looking rough. This is going on. So yeah. Mine dropped to 50% hatch when I doubled the dose of the cysts. I'm not in the US, so I'm not using the co-op product. Yeah, in general, there's a sliding scale. The more eggs you put into brine shrimp water, the faster they use up oxygen, the more ammonia there is. So finding that sweet spot. And it's why if you do like a tiny little scoop, just like a little bit, they can live in there for like 3 months, like sea monkeys. Like sea monkeys, that's the operation. Tiny bit of eggs, that water, do nothing. Basically, we'll have sea monkeys for 6+ months. But as Aquarius, we love to min-max. Like, we are a hobby that loves to min and maximize things. So minimize detriment, maximize bonus. We see it in filtration a lot, and that's where the jokes of like, you have an African cichlid tank, you have 6 peacocks, you better have 6 FX6s on there, because we see it as always helping, and for the most part it does help. It just doesn't help your wallet. Yep, I think this is going to be a ongoing thing for our customer service team and the forum and this. So joining late, this will be my first major storm with fish. I don't have any battery powered heaters, etc. What do we do if we lose power? Yeah, so I want to make sure that I don't want to alienate anybody. I want to use this like a teaching moment. So the first thing, everybody listening right now, if you don't have a storm, imagine that you're going to. The best day to prepare for a storm was yesterday. The next best day is today. So if you don't have any battery backups for anything, start thinking about that. You saw, well, maybe you didn't see it, but I posted last week. Was it last week or earlier this week? I think it was last week. I spent $1,300 on a battery for my fish room. Now, I don't expect most people have that kind of money. I didn't for many, 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 many years. However, you might be able to get like a little, even if you have a little battery backup, right? Just like one for your phone. We make products for people in these situations, like the air pump, for instance. The air pump comes with a battery, right? Great. It'll run basically 48 hours by itself once you put it into saver mode. We intentionally built the air pumps to be USB. Why, Corey? Why are they USB? Because when there's a power outage, you can plug it in to a laptop, you can plug it into a battery backup, you could recharge it in your car. There's all these little things you can do to like alleviate that part a little bit. And air, good news is the air doesn't use a lot of power. And so that's why you can, bring it to your grandma's house, charge it up for a couple hours, and be good for 2 days, right? When it comes to heat is a lot harder. Heat uses a lot of power. And so the problem is you can't really, like, even that $1,300 battery. So let's imagine I can do this. 100 watt load. So let's do a 200 watt heater. 200 watt per hour, 1,300 kilowatt hours, I think is, no, 3,000 kilowatt hours. How long is that going to last? So if I have a 200 watt heater, so if I had a 200 watt heater, it's going to last like 18 hours. And that's just one heater. And that's a $1,300 battery. So unfortunately, that's why when people go, why don't they make a battery powered heater? Because it would be a colossal battery. It would basically be like, spend $2,000, you could run one aquarium for 1 day. Now, heaters wouldn't necessarily have to be on the whole time. So there's a little bit of like, well, you could probably stretch that out to like, hey, I got 48 hours with one heater for that kind of money, which is a rough proposition. So instead, there's some other possibilities. if you know the storm is coming, I can't stress this enough because I've been in this scenario before. Strongly consider buying a generator, maybe a Harbor Freight, maybe a Home Depot. Because here's what has happened, because I've been in this scenario. When the power goes out for a lot of people and you realize that your power's not coming back on for a while because that storm was really bad, everybody's waiting at the Home Depots and the Harbor Freights an hour or two before they open trying to get one. And that won't be you, because it wasn't me. I tried that too, going, what am I going to do? Because I couldn't afford, it's funny, you can't afford, I couldn't afford to buy a generator, so I didn't. And then the power's been out and it's not coming on. It's looking real bad. I'm going to lose my fish. All of a sudden, I can afford a generator if I can find one. So, think about getting one ahead of time. That way you can do a little bit of shopping today. You could go like, okay, there's one here, there's one over there, and one over there. Which one do I want to buy? Technically, and I'm not necessarily advocating this, but technically you could buy one. If you don't use it, you could return it. I wouldn't advise doing that over and over again, but what I would advise would be if you can afford a generator, you buy one, and then you learn how to use it today. Set it up today, get it running today, buy the extension cord you need today. Don't wait till you don't have power, because waiting till it's daylight out to figure it out is rough. I've been there. But let's say you're not going to buy a generator. Also, ask your friends. I've loaned out, I think I loaned one out, a power bank or a generator or something to like Candy before. I know I've done it for Dean. You can get a network. So that's the other thing. Like if you got a local group of fish nerds, between the group of you, usually not everyone loses power. So the other thing is join some local groups like Facebook, whatever. Get in there and go, hey, what do you have? Because maybe you have battery powered air pumps and your power doesn't go out and you can offer those to somebody. Maybe your power does go out and somebody else has, like if you were near me, I've got a couple extra batteries. They're not the $1,300 ones, but I've got some pretty big ones that can do some things. They could keep a tank going, right? And then if you're not doing, let's say you're striking out there, look into potentially an inverter for your car. What that does is basically you can run your car. It's basically a generator, and you can make some power. If you have batteries, you could store it. You could also plug in your refrigerator and some other things and run them for, half an hour to an hour if you got a car full of gas. And then other people are mentioning, like the Big Buddy heaters. They make propane heaters that you can buy. It takes little propane canisters, and you can make some heat. It's not the easiest to heat a whole room when it's really cold. If you're losing power, it's -50. It's going to be rough. Even with the little buddy heater, the Big Buddy heater. So, but having any of those is still better than having nothing. And so I was, basically broke. I didn't have money, but I had fish. I'd save up, I'd buy the fish, I'd breed them, I'd do this, I'd make my way. But that $400 to $500 expense on a generator just never peaked the list, like, okay, because if you don't need it, it's so useless. And so I get where everybody's coming from with this of like, yeah, but if I could have $500, I'd set up another aquarium where I'd buy these fish. I wouldn't buy that. Eventually you hit a point where you either run into that event, it's so bad that you go buy one, or B, you finally go like, oh man, like this whole fish room, if I was to lose all this, it'd be way bad. I really need to do that. And trying to find, where you can, start making some headway, I would say. A lot of people don't even realize, even if you have a generator, all the filters and the fridges and the air pumps, there's 40 plugs. That's one of the reasons I like using a linear air piston pump. One plug in, whole fish room now has air. Only off of 40 watts. So 40 watts of energy will keep air in the entire fish room, which is great. So yeah, it's going to be, I'm sure a lot of people will lose some power. That's going to be rough. It's going to be hard on the animals. And I would say you can set yourself up for some, some success here try to get as many of your animals, whether it's fish, dog, cat, human, whatever it is, in the same room. You yourself will make some heat, right? Your dog will make some heat. Your cat will make some heat. Also, where you put the heater, if you only have to heat one room, will help. The other thing that we used to do when I didn't have these kinds of things is try to get like sheets and blankets. So before we had a whole house generator, which we do now, luckily, for the house, the fish room has the battery backup. We would basically block off doorways with blankets, so that we would trap the heat. We'd all stay in one room. And then, like at different houses, we might have had a fireplace. Like, okay, get the fireplace going. Or we had, it was basically the fireplace. I was thinking we had gas, we had normal between different homes over the years. And you could kind of huddle up and you got a lot of blankets in there and you just try to stay warm. But planning ahead of time. So maybe you buy a few extra curtain rods. Maybe you run to the store today and you buy some curtain rods. Is it curtain rods? Yeah, the curtain rods. I'm thinking of the ones where you can like push in and they like push against the walls for door jams, right? So either you twist them or you spring load them, you put them in. If you buy a curtain or you just hang over a blanket, that will block a lot of the air kind of going in and out of that room. And if your blanket's not long enough, put it towards the top. Heat rises, goes out the room. All these little things you can do stack up. It's not going to make it feel like the power's on, but it's the difference between like, hey, we've got to make it 3 days, 72 hours. Each one of those things you do is going to help you pull that off and not be like, man, I'm freezing cold. My fish are freezing cold. The other good news is your aquariums help keep temperature. So if you have a room like this room keeps temperature way better than my garage would. There's no water in the garage, so it just cools down. All these aquariums are what's called thermal mass. So they're all holding heat. You technically could turn all your, you turn your house temperature up, but you could turn your aquariums up like maybe a couple degrees. Like, hey, I'm trying to get to 80 so that, I've got a little bit more coming down. The other thing I would highly recommend, tops on the aquariums. So if you don't already have glass tops and you're going, hey, but power's going out tomorrow, let's say, or tonight, you could at least put saran wrap over the tops. Now, I was playing with my ponds yesterday. It was nice and cold and frozen. And I was looking at temperatures. And the temp outside was 40 degrees. The pond with no top on it, which we're still logging all that data, by the way, and you can check out that video if you haven't, it was also at 40 degrees. So it was the same as outside temperature. The other ponds with a top were 15 degrees warmer, basically. All of them, which is great. Now, when the temperature dropped last night down to 24, the one without a top dropped to about 38. So it still kept some temperature just from thermal mass, right? We still kept 14 degrees. But the other totes only dropped like 1 degree. So they kept, 25 plus degrees warmer than the outside. And so getting tops, even if you have, you got the most beautiful rimless aquarium set up right now in your living room. Oh man, it's so good. You can still put saran wrap over it to trap that heat in. Same thing for humans and pets, by the way. Like put on, your aquarium co-op. I don't have one in here. I've been using them outside. Your aquarium co-op beanie, that kind of stuff. Your heat escapes from your head. It escapes everywhere, but a lot from the top of you. Heat rises. So, yeah. Your generators got stolen. Brutal. We have that problem too. I haven't had one stolen, but like at the store and stuff. So I basically enter power outages on hard mode where there could be a warehouse, my store, and my house all without power at the same time. And so at the store, it's a public place, right? There's a lot of people and they're all bored. There's no power, so there's a lot of people walking around the parking lots during the day. And we'll have the generator going and we chain it to the pole, and then you'd think that would be like, okay, no one's going to steal it. And no one has stolen it, but people love to turn it off. They'll just bloop, start playing with it. And so we basically have to sit there and watch the generator, unfortunately. So yes, people will steal generators and things like that. It's also when I'm looking at generators, like I have one in the garage right now. I think it's a Ryobi. I think it's Ryobi, and it's got an app on it, but it runs quieter like a Honda. So the quieter you can make it, the more inconspicuous you can be, the better. Also, I would say make friends with your neighbors. So we have a whole house generator, and what we kind of do in our little neighborhood is, day one, kind of nothing, just like, all right, we'll see if the power comes on. Under 24 hours, like everybody in the chat you should be able to make it 24 hours. If you can't, you really need to get a backup plan of like whose house are you going to, or a shelter, or whatever that's going to look like. But everybody should be at least 24 hours. Like, okay, let's get through the night. And then after that 24 hours, we'll start offering like, hey, we've set up cords, in the garage or whatever. Like you can come charge your devices at our house. We have a whole house generator. We also offer that to friends that live far away, but we have at least that. And then by like day 2 and 3, right? So, or by 3 and 4, which doesn't happen that often, but that's when we'll start offering to the people we know, like, hey, you could come take a shower. So I should talk about that too. You might, even if you don't have power, you might have heat. So our water heaters are propane and propane accessorized. So we can still have heat that way. We also have heat via our fireplace. We have heat via our stove. So that's why it took us a long time to kind of buy a whole house generator, was we had these things like, we can get through it. But the things to remember, and if you're not aware of this, like your propane or your natural gas fireplace uses an electric fan. So if you buy a battery backup and you plug that fan into it, you can really heat your home pretty well during a power outage. What we learned is we needed to use that to get power for our well. So even though we could heat the water, we had very little water because we couldn't pump any water. So now we can offer that. And while I was going into like, what could you offer your neighbors, just like you were asking, trying to get into some fish groups, the community usually comes together. Maybe your neighbor has a generator and you go, hey, before it happens, right? So before it happens, talk to your neighbors, like maybe the two on either side of you, and you go, hey, do you have a generator? Do you have a generator? Maybe one will. And you go, hey, I gotta ask, what if I bought some gas and like on day 2, could I run an extension cord when you are running your generator? I bought a long extension cord and I could, refreeze my freezer, and then I want to get a little bit of heat to my aquarium, and I want to charge my devices. And you might be like, hey, some people, my neighbor's kind of far away. Well, they make really big extension cords. I know this because I bought one. They're not cheap. I bought a 500-foot extension cord that is very thick that I was going to run down to the pond. I ended up not doing it. It was like $300. And at that point, maybe you should buy a generator. But not everyone can run a generator. Like my neighbor, for instance, she was home alone, power's out, couldn't get it started. And so we went over there and got it started for her. And so that worked out. Like once, if it hasn't run in a long time, it can be really hard to get started. Once it's gotten started it's easier to get going again. And so, but yeah, you might be, maybe you can't run a generator, or you don't have the strength to get one started or whatever. You probably could buy an extension cord though. Now the thing I will say is, with the big storm coming, don't buy the stuff on Amazon because it's probably not going to make it to you in time. If you're going to buy an air pump from us, like, you should have one with a battery backup. But if power's going out and it's that bad of a storm, usually things aren't getting delivered. And so know that it's going to arrive like, great, that arrived 2 days too late. And so you're better off kind of going to that Home Depot, that Lowe's, that Menards, that whatever, and buying some of your supplies. Yes, people probably have already ransacked the grocery stores and bought all the food, but if you get there before the storm soon enough, usually you can get some of those. Great, I bought a snow shovel and I got my extension cords, I got, whatever you're going to get, and then try to invest in some of that stuff for the next time. Even if like I lived in an apartment for a lot, not an apartment, but like a duplex for a long time. As a kid, I lived in an apartment. But you can still buy things that will make sense, like from home to home to home, like big extension cord. Still kind of makes sense to own one. And those pretty much are always useful. So I would kind of prepare with some of those things. How big is my pond? I don't know. I really need to uh, play with it, as in drop something down to the center of it, kind of calculate it. It's kind of a bowl shape, and then do some wizardry math and come out with a lot. Like, it's a lot. 50,000 gallons. I don't know, more. It's big. So, let's see. Turn up late to Lowe's. Good excuse to buy a cool, expensive generator because it's all I have left. Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, I did learn something to me though. I was like, I never had the money to buy a generator until I would have given anything to have one, and then magically I was willing to spend more money on a generator. So in my mind, I didn't have the money. And then once I waited so long, when fish were gonna die, and I was gonna lose so much money in my own fish room. This was before I had a store, really. Uh, Magically I could come up with the money. Oh, I'll put it on the credit card, and I could have bought it, like bought the right one, bought it on sale, done whatever ahead of time, but I had already convinced myself in my mind I didn't have the money. So I guess I'm trying to impart that wisdom on people today. Is money is tight for everybody, but think about that. Like, is it like, oh, I would go buy one if I was without power for 4 or 5 days? Then maybe you try to buy one early and save yourself that. Heard good things about the Harbor Freight generators. Yep, we have one at the store. Worked out well for us. I did lots of research, and Harbor Freight, those ones got good reviews, and it's gotten us through many storms and power outages. So I would say, at least in my one use case scenario, that is the experience I had as well. I want to say at the time we paid like $400, but realize you're 400 bucks, then you're going to buy a gas can, then you're going to buy gas for that gas can, then you're probably going to buy some extension cords, and maybe even like I buy the Harbor Freight 4-foot power strip so I can plug things into it at the end of the extension cord. So like, oh, my phone, my laptop, my fridge, that kind of stuff. And yeah, so it could be like $500 with tax and everything. Just use solar. We put in solar. I put in solar end of the year, so I now have solar. However, I still don't have batteries because for whatever reason, solar batteries are 10,000% markup. And what I mean by that is it's literally cheaper to buy a electric vehicle with more battery storage capacity than it is to buy a whole home battery. So I bought a Toyota BZ, the 2026, for that reason. I wanted a mobile battery to go bail out friends and the store and other things during power outages. And so, off the top of my head, that has something like 70 kilowatt hours or whatever that is, right? Or 80. And the quotes that we're getting still, because I keep asking, like an Enphase an Enphase 15 kilowatt battery is $20,000. At that point, it's literally cheaper to buy the car that can drive around as your battery. And so that's what we did. And I think over time, the technology will get fixed or not fixed, but come down and get more reasonable. And we do live in a high cost of living area, being in Washington State. But yes, solar would be another option if you have battery backup for that. Because I learned we put in solar, and if my power goes out, my solar panels don't work if I don't have power, which is the craziest concept. I was like, what? They have to have power to run the microinverters to collect power to run things. So basically, if my solar system, the way we have it, if it doesn't get power from the grid, it can't collect power. You could make a total off-grid system, but that's not me. I live in the real world. I need a live stream. I need power. All the things. I'm not even sure legally if I could be off the grid. Like we had the amount of permitting and stuff that went down to pull this off. It took months and months of stuff to. But I am geeking out pretty hard on my in-phase app or whatever, where it's like, oh, we're making power, because the internet and people would be like, oh, in the Northwest, you're not going to make any power? Oh, in the winter, it's like it's not even on. And here I am going, at the worst, like we did, like on the shortest day of the year, it made 20% of all, or 25% of all my power needs. I'm like, this is going to be great. Like, I like it. Plus, I'm just a nerd, so I love the technologies. Real Fish Keeping 101, who's been a member for 69 months. Glad to catch you live. Loving the fish room updates. I've got the bug again. I'm ramping up more tanks. Is there any more Brazil content? Yes. There's at least 2 or 3 more videos. Earlier in the week, I was sorting some footage for the 3rd video, and I still just have, like, I don't know if construction's the right word. Yeah, I've got, like, some contractors doing some things, and, like, it hasn't been quiet to do the voiceovers and things. Plus, there's a motivation factor as well, and those two got to line up. And so, like, technically today, I probably could have voiced over, but I was like, I haven't been live in a long time. I want to hang out with people, so I chose to do that. And yeah, I also keep getting bamboozled a little bit. We've got other videos in the pipeline. Like, I did a video at Imperial Tropicals. I did. There's another video at Daku Aquatics that I was going to release this week, but his shipment of Beautiful Philandra and stuff got delayed, and he asked, like, hey, could you hold off on that? I don't want to have a bunch of people go like, oh, check that out, and then be sold out. So it's delayed for like another week or 2 on that. So that's why I was like, okay, I got to do that video in here. And so those videos are done, but just not ready to release, because it doesn't make sense to release another Imperial Tropical tour video so close to the other one. And then the Daku thing could come out, but it wasn't ready. Yeah. So you could generate your power in your pond off a giant bubble maker and a water wheel. Yeah, I mean, there's hydro generators and things. Mostly now that I've been in my career this long, I basically tell people I could do anything, or I can do fish. Because there's always like, you could do a thing, and I go, yes. But I'm always trading whatever that other thing is for what I'm already chosen as my career. Of like, or I could work on making more products, like this thing, right? This is a product. This thing's a product. Like, I'm already in that ecosphere and I'm set up to do that. Or I can, but yes, personal Corey, would Corey love to nerd out for about a year and find a way to build like a little hydro dam in my creek? Yes, I would. Am I ever going to do that? I'm not. I'm just not going to do that. I just know I won't. Unless I retire and I'm just like, I'm doing it out of, because technology is fun. Not so much like, yeah, that was practical. So. Let's see here. If your air pump and your well with buoyant paddles under it will generate electricity in the winter months. Yeah, there's a lot of cool technologies out there. Yeah. Live stream is better than Brazil video. Yeah, that's kind of how that went. Had questions days ago. Serena was amazing. Your employees are always so great and go that extra 30 miles to answer questions. Well, good. We try our best to, 1, hire good people, 2, train them well, 3, not overwork them so much so that they have the time. And I think that's a big key of, like, you can always run a business with less employees, but you typically get less quality, right? It's like that choose what speed, quality, price, and it's not like our people are sitting around, but there's definitely days where it's like, oh, this person's sick and that, and one person's got to handle like all customer service. It could be rough, and then it's like we don't try to keep it that way though. We want it so that people can spend time, answer questions, go, you know what, I'll try to get that through for you, because I'm hoping that's our superpower. Like we try really hard with people. That's in so many industries. I continually don't get that service. It's pretty sad. Need a small windmill? Yeah. Learned how expensive heaters were the hard way with a $400 electricity bill. Do not plug in space heaters. They're at least space heaters are very. Oh, I was like, what is that? Someone's using the water outside, and that's an exterior wall. Space heaters are at least very efficient, as in the amount of electricity they pull. They basically make that much heat, so that's cool. But yeah, it's it can be it can be surprising. And the other thing about the Northwest, like our power right now is really cheap to a lot of places in the world, and in the country. But kind of one of the reasons that kind of pushed me towards going with solar was our power bill like went up by 10% this year alone, and there's projected more going up more and more. And so to keep the fish room sustainable-ish, I'm investing in the future of like, well, if we can kind of lock in what we're paying for energy, that will hopefully make it so that it doesn't feel bad in 20 years when I'm even older, Corey, and I've got a giant fish room still. So trying to basically, I'm committing to, as I tell my family, my friends, I've committed to building my castle, and so this is my home. I don't plan on moving, and if I, scrape some extra dollars together, what can we do to improve where I currently live? I don't want to move again. Can I make the fish room better? Can I make the land better? We ordered a bunch of native trees. We talked about that, I think, on Deep in the Mulm, or not only trees, but shrubs and trees and plants, and trying to make it so that over time, I don't want to move. I like where I live, and build infrastructure things like some solar and the whole house generator and those things. So over years, you save up and you kind of move on the next thing, and that's yeah. I'm entering old man stage Corey of keep working on the home. I've been an Aquarium Co-op customer about 8 years, and I've only needed customer service twice. Both times went great. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Let's see. Any plans on adding more fish posters to the site? Oh, like maybe the members only? I could ask Chris Luke up about that. We might have some more we could do. I wasn't sure if people. I would bet you most members don't even know about it. Do you guys know that you can download the posters and then have them printed, like at a print shop or something like that? So if you go to like the members only section on the website, there's like what do we call it? We're calling it let's see, club member scratch and dent. So at the very bottom, because it'll look like it's sold out, there'll be a PDF poster thing that has links to downloads. But yeah, there's a chance for that. I'll bring it up when I'm talking to Chris next. I was talking to him yesterday about another thing. Let's see. What else have I been doing? I bought another 3D printer yesterday. It's on back order, so it won't be here till March or something like that. But I find myself, the way my work balance, I don't know, balance the wrong word, the way I work, I guess, is that there'll be days when I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to work on new projects and 3D printing, and I'll like need to print something and be needing to print something else, and be working on another thing. And with having one printer, if I start like a long print and then decide, oh, I actually need a couple more of these, I've been running into problems. So I got another printer on the way so that I can basically just work on stuff faster. Like right now, I'm printing not new rails, but more rails for the 10-gallon rack, to replace the light stands, because I decided, like, yeah, I haven't liked this for a long time. It's been over a year of me going, I should do that. But so often I'm printing prototypes of other things, like these are different products right here, which is different than these three right here. And, here's a previous model. Oh gosh, there goes my phone. Here's the, like, the cone feeder and stuff. And so there's all these little projects that are always going on, and I want to be able to kind of keep up. I don't love having to come back out at 11 o'clock at night because, like, well, I gotta get stuff off the printer. I gotta print more for, people are waiting on feedback, or I need to test this, or I want to install it tomorrow. So I'm trying to, not have to do that as much. Which 3D printer did I decide on? I went with the newer H2D, so the one with the 2 print heads. So I should be able to do 2 colors, which will be nice, because there's been a lot of little things like signs and stuff I've been wanting to make, which if I just load it with like black and white, that would accomplish that for me. And it'll still, almost everything I print is in black, except for like trays for like breeding fish and stuff. Those are in white. Yeah, so I think by just loading kind of black and white, that'll let me do more testing and stuff. Do I see the 3D printing being a long-term revenue source? It does make us some money, but I haven't officially looked at it, but it's one of those things that, like, we're going to continue to do it, but I don't think it's like, we're not going to scale it up, right? We have 20 printers at the warehouse. It's not like, oh, but if we had 50 or 100 or 1,000 of them, we'd be making tons of money. It's like, we can only develop products that are meaningful so fast. And that's really what we've done. With 3D printing, really underlined that, like, we can now move faster than Corey can move. Where it used to be Corey could think of things faster than we could move or act on them or develop them. And so now it's the other way. And short of getting more people like me on the team making more things, and we do that, like Randy's working on more intakes and things like that, which it's that the bottleneck is me currently. So yeah, multi extruder printer next. Yeah, the H2D could do that, which I do want to. I wouldn't mind playing with some TPU, which is like, basically, imagine if I could make gaskets for bulkheads and O-rings and things. That seems useful. However, I'm not convinced that I would actually utilize it. So I'm not jumping down that rabbit hole. It seems like it would be great, but it's another learning curve. Another new filament, another new thing. So looking for a new fun platy variation to put in my office setup. Any thoughts? My coworkers are excited to see what I decide to get. What would I do? If you haven't done Sunset Variatus platies, those are always my number one. After that, what did I choose after that? I pretty much just always go back to those. It's always a version of those. So those get my vote. I'm looking around the room going, yeah, those are just another type of Sunset Variatus. Like, what else have I had? And then, like, that's the only platies I have. And what I have last time, more versions of that. Slightly different. Long fin, slightly more orange or slightly more yellow. I've got 5 tiger barbs in a 120-liter aquarium. The pet shop near me doesn't have any tiger barbs left. What else can I add to the tank? One, I would say you can wait and just get more tiger barbs. They look cool and they behave, well together. Usually you can, they'll get some within the next 6 months. But I've found that lots of other fish, lots of other like Odessa barbs, other types of barbs, Congo tetras, bigger bodied tetras. I kept them with clown loaches. I kept them with blood parrots. I kept them with clouded archer fish. I kept them with. Did I say blood parrots already? I think I did. So a lot of stuff. They are not as ornery as I think the reputation they get. They are ornery a little bit, but not as bad as the internet makes you think. And so, yeah, I think other schooling fish would probably do okay as long as you get a decent group of them. Man, I've like got something in my eye that is irritating me. Got about 5 more minutes, and then I gotta work on some stuff. Um, when breeding a Pistogramma McMasteri, would you suggest moving the eggs to a fry tray if the parents have eaten them once before, or leave them? I usually give a second chance, but after that, I would probably move them. Yeah, sometimes the first time just never goes right for a species of fish. But also, I think I just read something and lost my thought. Um, oh, also, I'm not afraid to like not spawn a fish. So like some people, oh my god, I've never spawned a fish before, and they're so eager to be successful that they won't like give the fish a chance to learn themselves. And I am very much a let's see what nature does, and if nature really can't get it done after a few months, then I step in. Unless I was like the only person to own that fish, in which case I feel a duty to make sure it is successful. How do I acclimate my fish? Do I drip them? Nope. Do I temp acclimation? Nope. I've seen a lot of divided opinions online. I plop and drop. I've been doing it for 20 years. I'm not sure I can ever attribute a fish not doing well to plopping and dropping. We do that at the store as well. So I don't know how many fish over 20 years, but a massive amount of fish. That being said, I don't go out of my way to make it worse. So like yesterday, great example for yesterday. My fish came, my paradise fish and my Bleacher rainbows. What did Corey do? I brought him into the fish room. I opened the box, and then I went and had breakfast and did something else for like an hour. I came back like 2 hours later or an hour and a half later, and then I put the fish away because I'm confident with fish of like they just as easily could have been sitting on the back of a truck for another 6 hours, right? Now there are times like let's say it was like, oh man, it took 3 days to get here and they're looking really bad in the bag. Sure, maybe I would move faster. So my typical move is this for whether I'm picking up at the airport, whether it's arriving here. I plan my day so I have time. I don't want to be rushed. If I'm doing it at the store, I start opening boxes. I start laying things out. I heat the room. Then after I lay it all out and I see like, was there any 911s? No, okay. So they're all laid out on the floor and on the tables or whatever. Then I start going, okay, where are all these going to go? Because in a store, you don't necessarily have it all planned out. Like, ooh, I thought those were going to sell. They didn't sell. Those did sell. I've got room over there. Then I start walking around and putting bags in tanks, right? We freed up this in quarantine. This goes here. And that's what I do at home, too. I go, okay, where are you going to live? Okay, where are you going to live? Where are you going to live? And then after I've done all that, it's probably taken me 5, 10, 15 minutes. Then I go around and I go, what ones did I put in first? Okay, they've been acclimating the longest. And then I open them up and I release them. I don't even strain the water. Oh, the heresy. We do strain the water at the store. So we like dump the fish through a net and then they go into the tank because that water does have a lot of ammonia typically because there's so many fish, 300 to 500 fish in a bag, where like Imperial Tropicals and Dan's Fish and I bought Guppy John guppies and stuff. All of those are typically like 1 to 3 fish per bag. Not a lot of ammonia at all. And there could be some meds in there, and that's fine too. I'm not afraid of the disease in that so many people were like, that's how you introduce disease. And I go, no. If we're introducing diseases, you're introducing it with the fish, the thing that has the disease. So the water itself, eh. And I find it just easier and less stressful, and you can cause some harm on fish when you put them in nets. Especially if you've ever done autosinkless or catfish, they get caught in there. Yeah, even shrimp get plop and drop, especially shrimp. Like shrimp are the cockroaches of the world. Like those things, yes. Snails too, everything. Now, as you know, I test everything. From product, everything in my life is like a neuroses that is no one else enjoys. But in all of my testing, I never saw a difference between plop and dropping or acclimating or letting them come up to temperature or anything like that. It every time, and I have the good news is I have the not the good news. I'm lucky enough to be able to do that. Like, okay, I've imported cardinal tetras every week for the last 20 years. This week, I'm going to try this. And I'm so fortunate that when we import cardinals at this point, we'll import 3 or 4 bags. So you literally can go, this one's plopping, dropping. This one's going to acclimate for an hour. This one's going to acclimate for 30 minutes. This one's going to do this. And then you have them all 4 in a row and go, was it any different? And from my testing over the years, the answer was no difference. It really, the big differences I found were how long were they in transit? How many hours? How many days? How many to the bag? How healthy were they to begin with? Did they have sunken in bellies? Did they look good? What source did they come from? Right? All of those made 98% of the difference. And what I actually did in the store in terms of that hour-long, maybe put away process, basically had no bearing on it. Things like meds I use have a bearing on it. Like there are things that matter in the process, but the actual transferring the fish from a bag they came in to my water, I couldn't find the difference. And I want a repeatable process that any employee can follow, because if you just get a bag of 500 cardinal tetras and you open the bag and you walk away, you'll come back in an hour and they'll probably be dead. And you're like, what? There's a lot of ammonia in that bag. The pH drops, keeps it from being toxic. You open that bag up and you let oxygen back in. You let the pH rise because the CO2 is gassing out. And now you'll have an ammonia spike and you'll kill your fish. So like in the saltwater world where fish, I'm not experienced. I've never imported saltwater, but the going thought process is acclimate everything. They actually open the bag, they add a little bit of prime or dechlorinator in there to neutralize that ammonia or bind it up while they're acclimating. Also meds going into a reef tank, really not good. So, different processes. But for me personally, at the store where we do that to make money, and I'm a guy that analyzes things, if we were getting better results, we would do it a different way. We just haven't seen it. Could be our water structure, could be the type of fish we buy, but I've brought in lots of African cichlids at the African cichlid store I ran. I've done lots of, soft water fish. I've done discus, I've done loaches, I've done puffers, I've done shrimp, and I'm just not seeing it. Now, just because I see it doesn't mean there isn't a difference, by the way, because, all I can really show and tell you guys is what I do. You can do lots of things in your life that are wrong unknowingly. Like, I wish I'd have known that. I would have learned that. Yeah. All right. I see questions. I see things that I would love to talk about. Like, am I going to get any fruiting shrubs and trees? Oh, yes, I definitely am. Crab apples and all kinds of stuff. We were looking at wind stuff, fruits, so that we can have more stuff in the winter for the animals, because we're nature lovers, I guess. Enjoy nature daily. But alas, I have work to get done and meetings to happen and things like that. So hopped on for a Friday. I'll try to hop on more frequently, which I always say that. I say that every time. So know that it's not from a lack of wanting to, it's a lack of. But if I do it, an hour at a time, hopefully I can fit that in more often and more off the cuff. So if you're hung out today, well, thank you for hanging out. If you got a storm on the way, I'm hopeful you'll get through it. No power outage. I'm hoping for that. And yeah, hit up customer service if you need something. If you need to buy stuff, we sell stuff, so that's helpful for both of us. And yeah, watch all of our videos, compliment somebody, and enjoy your weekend. I'll talk to you later once I find the buttons, because I'm like 8 layers deep at this point. All right, bye bye.